If I asked our listeners which country
Hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, or even good morning. Quite a few of you here already. Scoobyism, Tricky Mario. I guess that's in reference to my video this morning. Yeah. Good evening, Not Joe King. Hi, BP, Alan Zibelman. Hi, Alan. And Boris, bonsoir. And Ant H, Riqua, Moonraker, Fibonacci from Michigan, Stephen Carlsbad. Hi, Stephen. Alain Roy from Montreal, Catfish Customs, Hurricane Annie from Sweden. Quite a few here already. We're going to have Rafi Farber on. He's coming on at 9. So in about 8 minutes. So we're going to look at this announcement from the G7, see what it means really, if there's going to be any impact, and a few other things. And we'll be doing the usual Q&A. Morgan Marusteri from Sweden, Oleg Lagoon from Russia. Hi, Oleg. Steve Maxwell says hi, Mario and Billy. Billy and I just went out in the garden before we went live, just for a little bit of a break. It's a nice evening. It's a bit chilly, actually. It's not that warm, but it's okay. It's nice, sunny. Andrew Watson from Basingstoke. Oh, I just wanted to announce that next Sunday, unfortunately, I won't be doing a live stream because I'm going away with some friends from the golf club. We're going away on Sunday and Monday. We're going to be playing golf. I'm going to be staying at a resort overnight. So unfortunately, there won't be any live stream next Sunday. But I'll probably publish a video Sunday morning like I did today. Let's see who else is here. We've got Faith Parent. Hi, Faith. Mr. Ashford thinks it's a controlled demolition of the West. I have a feeling it is. And all the announcements we get publicly is just a cover. What's going on behind the scenes is completely different. I agree with you. Some people don't. The drawback is here. Neil's World. Greg Austin, John Griffin, Urban Sombrero. He's been around for a while. Elias Jones. Brady Girding is here too. Dilwyn Roberts from North Wales. Stephen Carlsbad, Music Lover Forever. So Belly Dance Arabia is here too, as usual. Let's see who we've got. Who else? Damjan Srebo from Serbia. Carlos Garcia. Tim Gibson has been blocked from commenting because he cussed in the comments. Yeah, that's the thing. Jeff 702 from Las Vegas. Hi, Jeff. Echo says, have a good golf trip. Thank you. Billy's a gardener. Yeah, he likes to garden. He likes just lying on the grass. He used to like running around, but now without being able to see that much, he's not as active, unfortunately. Bronson Smith thinks silver and gold to the moon. I don't know, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of speculation already about this announcement for the G7, and we're going to talk about that. And I thought it would be interesting to have Rafi's opinion. He hasn't been on for a while. He usually comes once a month. Hasn't, yeah. One Tango Man from Delaware, from Biden State, Delaware, the land of the tax-free corporations, right? Not Joe King purchased Egon von Grey's book this morning. He wrote with Matt Piepenberg. I'm sure you know everything that will be in there anyway. I haven't bought the book. Jillian B says, hi, Mario in the Billster. Oh, Rafi's here already. He's quite early. That's good. Hi, Rafi. Hi there.
Hey.
You're a little early. That's good. That's good. Why not? I usually start about 10 minutes before the set time, but yeah. How are things?
Things are interesting. Things are good.
I liked your little short video about that guy from the World Economic Forum.
Oh, you all know Harari?
Yeah, he's called Mr. Reset Jubilee. That's how his name translates.
Yeah, well, Yuval is Jubilee. It's the same letters.
Yeah,
The same word.
yeah,
And Noah is Noah, and he was the reset guy.
yeah, and yeah. So I think you saw the title of the live stream, about this G7 announcement. So we're gonna cover that a little bit. We're just gonna wait for another few minutes so people get on.
Right.
Just greeting the viewers. Mr. B says greetings, Mario and Billy. Arif Murataj says hi. Jim Millward. It's not that silver and gold are going to the moon. It's just that everything else is descending into the Mariana Trench. I agree with Jim. Jim is an artist in England, and I bought a painting from him, and I paid him with silver and some fiat a few years ago. Very good artist.
Good.
Yeah. John Herbo from Liverpool. Reset Jubilee. Alan Ross says that his name, Reset Jubilee. I don't know.
It would be Reset Harari. I don't think Harari is Hebrew. I think it's Arabic.
Yeah, Bobby Critter says Rafi is awesome. So there you go, Rafi.
Thank you.
And James Baldwin, hey Mario, thieves stole my silver from my front door. Should I move? Why are you leaving your silver at your front door? Or they got in through the front door. Yeah. We got a super chat. India is about to get a great deal of gold. Yeah, so maybe we can start now. What do you think, Rafi, about this G7 announcement? Is it a big deal, or is it just more, just to pretend they're doing something?
I don't know if they're going to enforce it, how they're going to enforce it. I mean, the gold can easily leak out through China. I mean, they're not. That seems like the most obvious route, but it makes no sense. They're saying like you have to keep Russia, you have to keep all your gold, and there's nothing you can do about it. As if like that's a problem.
They're probably all right. Fine, we keep our gold. And I saw a tweet from what's his name again? The guy from Gold Seek. He's on Twitter. Let's see, Peter Spinner. He said that blocking, the sale of gold from Russia to the G7 nations will deprive the markets of 19 billion worth of gold a year. I guess that will be less physical, but gold is so fungible that they could sell it to Dubai, they could sell it to India or China, and then those guys will smelt it and then sell it to the Western countries, right?
Yeah, I don't see any way that they would be able to keep it out of the market. But even more simply, just in terms of value, I mean, what happens when they say you can't sell your gold? Let's say let's say they really do shut the gold market down, and Russia really can't export any gold. So fine, then the central bank buys all of it at a discount, and then the ruble gets de facto backed even stronger by gold, and then they just buy things with rubles.
Yeah.
I mean, they wouldn't even have to declare a gold standard or anything. They could just, the ruble would strengthen, which is why the ruble has been strengthening ever since it bottomed at like what 120 at the peak of the Ukraine invasion. But now it's been strengthening ever since. And the more gold that they don't export, the stronger the ruble will be, and which will be the gold substitute. That's what currencies are. But the G7 doesn't understand that.
No. Mark Volker, thank you for his super chat. He says, if Nevada was a country, it would be the 5th largest gold producer in the world, 144 metric tons in 2020, down from 174 in 2018. Government regulations are hindering production. The US economy has been destroyed on purpose. I'm not surprised. The same thing's happening here in the UK. One thing I thought that could be, this would be more like speculation, and some might call it conspiratorial, is that the bullion banks need to cover their shorts, their paper shorts. And this would be a great excuse to say, well, the price of gold is going up, not because of inflation, but because all the gold from Russia is stopped flowing to the West. We would know that that's not really the case, because we know it's fungible, but the general public probably wouldn't suspect anything, and they say, oh yeah, it's because of Putin that gold is going up. What do you think of that scenario?
What does it matter what the public thinks? I mean, it doesn't matter why gold's going. It doesn't matter what they think gold's going up. If they see it's going up, that means the currencies are going down. They could, what's the difference if they think it's the Putin price hike for gasoline or not? I mean,
yeah, and I think it's because of the politicians. They think they can fool the public. But I saw a survey the other day that was done in the UK, and now the biggest proportion of the respondents said that the Bank of England and the government are to blame for the cost of living crisis and the inflation, and Putin is like second or third as a reason.
I think most people will see through it, and it won't even matter. I mean, even if most people think it's all Putin's fault that gold's going up, or that public doesn't care about the gold price. Let's just let's just be frank about it. But if they care more about gasoline, but even if everybody thought it was Putin's fault, it doesn't mean that they're going to be happy with Biden and vote him in again. It's
yeah. So I just wanted to, I don't know if you've seen this. This is from the Office of Controller of the Currency, and they publish these quarterly reports. And this is for the first quarter. It's just been published this month. And they've changed.
I don't understand what I'm looking at here.
Yeah, it's the notional amounts of precious metals contracts by maturity, right? Mm-hmm. So the orange bar is precious metals derivatives less than a year, right? The blue is between 1 and 5 year. And I would say most of this is gold. There is silver and some other, platinum and palladium. But what they've done here is they changed the accounting for the big banks. It says January 1st, 2022, the largest banks are required to calculate their derivative exposure amounts for regulatory capital purposes using standardized approach for counterparty credit risk. Under SACCR, gold derivatives are considered precious metals derivative contracts rather than an exchange rate derivative contract, resulting in an increase in reported precious metals derivative contracts to prior quarters. So this is quite weird. I'm still trying to figure out what it will mean, but basically the amount of gold derivatives has gone up almost 5 times, and this is just out of the blue. Not sure what.
It seems to be an accounting difference. I think Alistair McLeod talked about this a few months back for a while, and he was talking about the new regulations. Wait, what was it called? Not Bretton Woods.
Basel
What was
III.
that? Basel III, yeah. Basel III, and he was talking about how it would change the definition of a gold derivative contract in terms of the capital tiers or something, and that this would change the structure of their balance sheet so that they would have to close shorts faster to avoid penalties. I'm not sure if that's actually going to work out, but we see the accounting difference here. Whether what it means practically, I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll find out. But I mean, this is really for someone with a much deeper background in bank gearing to analyze.
I know. And I think this just came out recently, this change. Not the change, but the publication of this report.
They did a similar thing with M1 and M2. I think they changed M2. They said savings is no longer M2, now it's M1. So you see the M1, money supply just like go vertical, but it's really just an accounting trick.
Sorry, he wanted to come down. I just heard him crying to come down. Can't see anymore. Billy. So sorry about that, guys. You won't be able to see Billy anymore. But what else?
How old is your dog? Like 16, 17?
He's going to be 14 on the 7th of July.
Yeah. Wow.
But he's gone blind in the last 6-9 months. So he used to just jump off himself. But now I have to go and pick him up because he can't see. So let's look at some questions here, see if we've got some questions. Mr. B says, all these events seem to be all coming to a head next few weeks. Crack up boom. Maybe you could touch upon what do you think about the crack up boom and a possible hyperinflation? I saw there was an article, actually a paper published by the BIS today, was in the FT, that they're warning the central banks about inflation, saying that it could become entrenched.
When do the question is, do I see a crack up boom in the next couple of weeks?
Not couple of weeks, but I guess months.
I'm trying, what would actually trigger it? Look, the most dangerous thing I see now is something like $2.2 trillion in reverse repos with rising interest rates on the long end. So that what I'm looking at in the weeds actually is secure overnight financing rate, which is the repo rate, and that rate is going lower and lower. I mean, it's out of range of the Fed's interest rates, which are between 1.5 and 1.75, and the repo rate it was 1.45, and yet on Friday it was 1.44. What I think might be happening is that the reverse repo money is coming out of reverse repos and going into the banking system and kind of flooding it, pushing those target rates down. So if there's going to be hyperinflation in a matter of weeks, it would have to be something that goes wrong fundamentally with the plumbing. And you'd have to see like a flood of like something breaking, like happened in the apocalypse in September 2019 when rates went up to 10%, but it would have to be the reverse of a sudden flood of money where rates would go down to negative or something. And that might cause a break in the system where all of a sudden all prices would have to be just fundamentally re-indexed. And that could happen. I don't know exactly when it will happen, but eventually it will.
I guess the reverse repo, all 2 trillion of those funds, is partly due to that regulation last year that banks can't, limit on bank balance sheets to hold cash. So they just keep lending it to the Fed overnight. Isn't that what it is? But maybe, if rates start going up in the economy, banks might want to lend more, and that could create even more inflation. What do you think?
They would want to lend more, but who is going to want to borrow more?
That's true. And there's also the risk, they're probably better off keeping it with the Fed because it's guaranteed. Someone said here, Rafi, Rafi no longer wanted for kindergarten hooliganism. Yeah, I saw that. You spoke to Wall Street Silver. That was a good interview. I'm being interviewed by them tomorrow.
Yeah, they're fun. I like them.
I like them too. They're good with their memes, Jim, and on Twitter. You guys should follow Wall Street Silver on Twitter. Let's have a look. Hi, Mary. Could we end up with 2 gold values when BRICS is established? It's possible, I guess. In the US, gold was always at 35, or you couldn't even buy gold. But in the international market, gold fluctuated a bit more. I think it's hard though, because gold is such a huge market and is accepted everywhere, and arbitrage will make sure that the gold price is probably the same everywhere. What's your view, Rafi?
No, I don't think we're gonna have 2 prices for gold. I don't think in the end game, when it's all said and done, I don't think any currency number for gold is gonna matter, because no one's gonna want to use currencies because they're all gonna fall. So it'll just be things priced in gold and silver, initially on the black market.
Yeah.
And then when things are on the black market like that, everything is disjointed. But that's what's going to cause a lot of the chaos.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to buy the most stuff during that chaotic time when the monetary medium has to start circulating. So look, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. It's gonna be a mess, and hopefully we can get through it.
So this is the story here. I got it out of Politico. I don't really know who they are, but they said that they must be mainstream. It said all that glitters won't be sold. G7 bans Russian gold. So the mainstream try to portray this as a bad thing for Russia. Ban is latest effort to undercut Russia's extraction-based economy in response to war in Ukraine. Yeah, and the mainstream, they don't understand that Russia actually would like to keep its gold because it's money, like you said. And the other thing about Russia and the economic advisors to Putin, someone said I should pronounce it Putin, not Putin, is that back in 2005, Bill Murphy of GATA, he organized a summit. I think it was called Yukon 2020 or something, or Yukon 21, 21st century. And he had there a Russian economist who was an advisor to Putin at the time. So they know all about the bullion banks and the huge paper short positions. So they're probably laughing about this new sanction on gold, I would say.
Yeah, it's the West views gold as just another commodity, and that's all. They don't see it as money, and they think that it no longer is. They're just, so most people think.
Yeah. Question for Rafi from Mr. Ashford. With the ECB using their special tools to stop fragmentation in bonds, are they preparing papering over the debt implosion already?
What special tools? They only have one tool, and that's to inflate.
Yeah. But I think he's talking about the fragmentation is, the pigs yields going up quite a lot in the last few weeks. I mean, I can answer that if you want, Mr. Rafi. I think just by announcing a couple of weeks ago that they were having an emergency meeting about this, it calmed the market down. But I don't think anything has been solved. They're just buying time. And we're also seeing Credit Suisse, who has a lot of European sovereign debt. They seem to be in trouble. Have you heard about that, Rafi, about Credit Suisse?
Yeah, I looked at Credit Suisse's latest annual report to see their exposures to sovereign, specifically the pigs, Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain. And their exposure, I think, is a gross position of like 25 billion and a net position of 13 billion. Either way you count it, I think their market cap now is around $13 billion, something like that. So their exposure to sovereign pig debt is basically their entire market cap. So the next sovereign debt crisis, Credit Suisse blows over, and that creates that creates a domino. The next domino, financial domino, is going to lead to the next round of printing, which is going to destroy all currencies. I don't see another round after this one.
I know, and I think in the US as well now, the market is discounting 50 basis points hike instead of 75 in the next meeting, FOMC meeting. Miles, thank you for your super chat. He says there will be no stock or bond market after reset. That ladder up for middle class is being sucked dry and removed. If market survives, general public will not be allowed to participate again. The other thing I would say is that the very wealthy, the billionaire class, the elite, they're heavily invested in private equity, which is outside the public markets. Have you got a view on what Miles said, Rafi?
Well, that the average person won't be allowed to participate in markets. No, I don't see that happening. The reset, it's not going to be a reset on their terms. They're not in control. They feign control, but they're not in control. They're terrified because they don't want to lose control. And when they do, they're not going to be able to control the peasants anymore. It's not going to get worse than this in terms of control, I don't think. And I don't believe in this this dystopian world where everything is tracked and central bank digital currencies are track everything, and we're in a real genuine 1984, like a 1984 in equilibrium. That's not possible, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, you've always said that it's the analogy is to the Tower of Babel, and that never works. So no one's ever been able to form a world government, so to speak, like Pinky and the Brain. You like to use that example. But yeah, the other thing I would say about markets is that I think it will be very volatile. And I think people who are leveraged, they will be wiped out in this environment. But if you have a foot outside the system, i.e., physical gold and silver, and you still have maybe some investments in the stock and bond market, yes, you're going to might get hurt there, but your gold and silver will act as real cash, and you might be able to eventually. I mean, I'm looking for a reset between the Dow Gold ratio at 1 to 1. I think that will be the biggest signal. And just wanted to touch upon Jeff Curry and Jeff Christian, because you have an interesting view on why these guys can't seem to see the potential for silver. Maybe you could talk to the viewers about that.
Oh, well, basically it's that they are commodity analysts. They see gold and silver as simple commodities that have industrial purposes. And also on the side, there are these like strange people that collect them for some reason because they think we're going to go back to a gold or silver standard, and they're all nuts. So they don't see it as money either. But when we say that gold and silver are going to go up, we're not saying that gold and silver are going to go up. We're saying that the dollar is going to not be able to buy anything, and then people will have to revert to gold and silver directly, whereas they don't see that as possible. So that's where the disagreement is. So right now, where gold and silver is still primarily an industrial commodity, is not really a monetary commodity until people have no choice but to go back to it for money. Then they'll be right. The Jeffs will be right, and okay, fine,
Yeah.
but like reality is going to change, and they're not going to be able to deal with it because the dollar is not unbeatable. It's going to die.
Yeah, I also saw recently the Russian finance ministry on their website. I think they were being asked about gold, whether Russia had some of its gold with the Bank of England. And they said, no, we keep all our gold in Russia because Russia is the most important monetary asset that a country can have. So, and I think the BRICS now, they're acquiring more gold. So it's ironic that it's the emerging markets and the poorer countries that recognize gold, while we in the West in general don't. Let's see here. We've got a super chat. Thank you, Mr. Valentine. He says Newmont's top shareholders, Vanguard and BlackRock, ergo its CEO is an ESG bootlicker. See Kitco interview. Well, I would say the thing about Vanguard and BlackRock, they seem to own most companies only because they're funds, and individual investors, they buy these funds. And what do you think? I think people make too much of a big deal about this. I'm not too sure. What do you say, Rafi?
Wait, what's the problem? What's the question?
Well, it's not really a question. It's basically saying that just because Newmont's biggest shareholders are Vanguard and BlackRock, is that, they are beholden to, this ESG agenda. But I don't think it's true personally, because
No, that goes too far down the rabbit hole for me.
yeah,
I don't really pay
and
attention
I
to
think,
that.
Vanguard and BlackRock, I remember 10, 20 years ago, the biggest funds that people could invest in, a lot of them were Merrill Lynch funds. So Merrill Lynch at the time looked like they were the biggest shareholders, but it was just a lot of small investors that were invested in that, and it looked like they were. But I think the ESG agenda is starting to, like, they're going to have
What is ESG?
it's this green agenda. It's environment, society, and governance.
Okay.
It's like it's trying to make big corporations like
Militant environmentalism.
yeah, and like green energy, stop using coal. But we're seeing now in Europe, they're starting up the coal mine, the coal. They're starting to use coal again because they have to. So, and we actually saw that BlackRock is actually they're watering down their ESG conditions. They're buying companies they don't care anymore. So I don't think that's true. I think Newmont is a good company because it has a good dividend, and it's a good way to hedge the volatility in the juniors that you have. What's your view on that, Rafi?
Well, on ESG, I wouldn't worry about that either, because right now people can pretend that they want renewable energy and green energy and this and that, as long as they can keep inflating and keep all the debt piles, in the pyramid. Once it collapses and people face either freezing to death in the winter and starvation, or use oil and coal, they'll use oil and coal. This whole thing will just go away very quickly, once people are going to die if they don't use traditional energy. So don't worry too much about that. It's just whining and complaining.
I wouldn't either. I think it's really not going to work out for this ESG. They're going to realize it's not doable unless they want a revolution on their hands. Let's see if we got any more questions. Silver Wolf says, I'm buying the miners this week. They have been bashed down to what I consider a good deal. Yeah, I saw apparently the GDX J is like way lower than a few years ago when gold was at the same price. So yeah, it's very undervalued, especially the juniors, I would say.
Yeah, it's been that way for a very, very long time. But if you look at an old chart of, I think, Homestake Mining in the 1920s, right? So as the Dow was going crazy and this Roaring '20s bubble was peaking out, Homestake Mining did very, very little. So I'm sure in the 1920s, while the stock market was going crazy and everyone was partying and getting their 1,000% gains, Homestake Mining stockholders were in the doldrums, and they felt embarrassed and like, why am I missing out on this? But then what happened was the bubble popped, and then all the other stocks went down, and Homestake Mining was pretty stable. And then once the Dow bottomed, that's when the mining stocks really kicked off like crazy for the next 10 years.
Yeah, the other thing I read the other day is that there was a huge commodities in general, not just gold, had a really good return in the 30s, despite the fact that there was depression and actual deflation. The money supply went down. Someone said, Tricky Dicky, Mario, watch Justinian deception videos on YouTube. I have watched that guy. He's an Australian guy. I don't know if Rafi's watched that.
haven't.
No. Question for you, Rafi. Do you think a US collapse will cause a power vacuum in Israel? And if so, what would this mean for Israel in regards to its military security?
Well, you're saying if the U.S. collapses, then who's looking after Israel, and are we going to have a collapse here? Yeah, well, I think the US, the United, once the dollar collapses, I think the U.S. is going to break up into regions or states. The state governments might, some of the stronger states will stay together, and California might break up. But then what happened? Like, I don't think America is keeping Israel together at all. I think that's just a myth. The Israeli government has very little confidence in itself and sees America as its father, and I think that just hurts the country. So I would appreciate if America just got out of here, left us alone to our own devices, and whatever happens here happens, and stop bothering us.
All right, good answer, I think. When the collapse happens, would Russia or China be good places for me to go and take my stack to? That's Andrew Watson. Well, I'm not sure. I've never been to either country. I watched the football World Cup a few years ago in Russia, and it looked like a nice place. But sometimes, I think there will be opportunities here as well. And if you know what's coming and you're prepared, I think you could do okay. What's your view on that, Rafi?
There's got to be a point where you don't have your stack, or you destack. There has to be a point where we decide we're going to buy things.
Yeah.
You don't want stacks forever. But I think that the best time to buy stuff to accumulate real assets will be in the immediate aftermath, when people are clamoring for it so hard that they'll sell anything for it.
Yeah.
Like what happened in Weimar. We're talking about a reset. That was a 1 trillion to 1 reset. When the Rentenmark came out, it was 1 trillion Reichmarks, and that's when they stabilized the monetary system there. But at the peak of it, then you could buy a nice house in Berlin for like 4 or 5 gold coins. So you might want to do that. Buy some real estate. Real estate is hard to steal. So if you're worried about your property being stolen, get some real estate in different countries, and then rent it out.
Yeah, I also heard a story about a young German guy who was given a $20 gold piece, gold eagle, double eagle by an American tourist, and he was able to buy a small hotel with that coin. And as for property or real estate, there's stories about East Germans, when the Soviets came in, and also maybe in other Eastern European countries, and their homes were confiscated. They knew they were coming, and what they did is they put they dug the deeds of the home, and then put concrete over it, like by the front door. And then when the Berlin Wall fell in, I think it was 89, a lot of these people went back, to Eastern Europe, and they went to their old homes, or maybe their parents or grandparents, and they knew where the deeds were. They were able to break the concrete, and they had the deeds, and actually they had claim to that property. So,
wow.
Yeah,
That's genius.
yeah. And there's stories as well of people digging, digging gold and silver and leaving it. But you got to make sure your descendants keep track of it. That's the problem. AAA beverages, we see shortages of constitutional silver. What's your opinion of what's happening in the EU coin market? Well, I've heard that constitutional silver or junk silver, the premiums are still quite high, 25%. EU coin market, I don't follow that market too much because I'm not in the EU, I'm in the UK. In the UK, I think gold is still 3 to 6% premium. Depends on the dealer and the coins or bar. Silver is still, you got the VAT, but even without the VAT, it's probably about 25 to 30%. Rafi, any?
Yeah, that's what I've seen. The junk silver coins are about 25-30%. And I think American silver eagles are something like 45-50% even.
Wow.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I saw I didn't listen to the video, but Andy Scheckman apparently saying that premiums are actually coming down. So I don't know. Yeah. Belly Dance Arabia says any silver below 50 is a steal. Yeah, I think sometimes we worry too much about the fiat price because we think of gold and silver as commodities that we need to trade. And I think we just need to be patient and hold it as money. And like Rafi said, once everything implodes and you have a collapse of the currencies, then you'll be able to, no one will have money. Like in Lebanon right now, I interviewed a guy from there some months ago, and he said, you can't find any currency, you can't buy anything. But if you have gold and silver, you're even going to be trying not to exchange it for anything. So I think it's if you read the Mandibles, I recommend the book The Mandibles. It's only really after the dust settles that you want to use your gold and silver to exchange it for real assets or anything you want. Let's see. Echo says copper is coming down. Do you think silver will follow copper because of the industrial overlap? Well, copper until recently was near its all-time high, and silver wasn't doing anything. So maybe silver led the way there. But I think copper's people see it as a very good indicator of economic activity. What I think it's saying is that there will be a recession. Silver, I think, has also more monetary qualities than copper. Rafi, anything on the copper side that you think?
Yeah, well, if copper is going down, that does indicate that a recession is underway. Except this recession is going to be different because one thing that's going to be very different is that food prices are not going to fall. They're going to stay higher and they're going to keep climbing. Because it's hard to conceptualize this, but in a hyperinflation, the prices of other things can fall, but the prices of the most basic necessities that everyone has to have, the least elastic things that people need a fixed amount of, because if not, they're going to die. Those are the prices that rise the fastest because that's where people's emergency purchasing power is going to be plowed into. So the prices of designer clothing and all this expensive luxuries that could actually fall, but the prices of basic necessities will rise, and that's what will make it hyperinflationary instead of deflationary. So yeah, copper might fall, but still your grocery bill is going to keep going up.
Yeah. There's a super chat here. Thank you, Joseph. And he says, Rafi son or without facial hair looks like Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah. Jake Gyllenhaal, Tobey Maguire, and Elijah Wood.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I saw an interesting article today here in the FT about the UK construction and building, the builders. And apparently they've got, I'll share this with you and the viewers. And this might, explain to people how it says UK's local builders disappearing in their thousands as costs soar. Price of key materials and labor shortage make business untenable for many family-run businesses. I'm not going to go through the whole article, but they're saying that there's still a lot of demand for construction for builders, but they're still going out of business because all their costs are going up. So it's really weird because the Keynesians think, if we put the economy into a recession, all the costs are going down. But this proves that it's not happening.
Yep.
And you see here, look at the construction costs. I mean, and an interesting comment here is that some of the costs have come down in the last year, right? It says here, higher shipping costs caused by supply chain congestion out of China have led to long delays. The cost of a 40-foot container from China was $11,000 at the start of this month, less than its peak at $14,700 in October, but a huge rise from $1,500 in the summer of 2020. So that's the other thing as well. Yes, some of these costs are coming down, but they're still a lot higher than they used to be prior to COVID and the lockdowns.
Yeah, they're not going to go back to the way they were.
No. Yeah. And then we've got this article that I told you about earlier. The BIS is concerned now, leading economies at risk of falling into high inflation trap. I don't think they will be able to get out of that trap. I think the BIS is saying that they need to get ahead of the curve, but they're way behind. And I think it's the analogy of the horse has bolted is gone out of the stable, and you can't get him back in. But this is really interesting here. The proportion of countries with high inflation has exploded. So proportion of countries with inflation over 5%. And you'd think the emerging market economies would have more, but it's actually the advanced economies. I thought that was interesting. And if you look, this chart is since 2000. So yeah, I mean, to contain this back, what do you think, Rafi? Do you think they're going to succeed in containing this, bringing it back down?
No, it's impossible.
I know when you see this chart, I'm surprised, they still think they're so deluded to think that you can do it. So high inflation has become more broad-based.
Mario, if you scroll back down to that chart again.
Yeah.
If we just that 2008 bump, right, in the emerging economies and also in the advanced economies, you could how did they bring inflation? How did they bring the consumer price inflation back down back then? They brought on us a financial crisis. They didn't do it on purpose.
Yeah.
But when you try to push down consumer price inflation, you have to cause a financial crisis. So yeah, theoretically they could bring inflation back down, but they would have to cause such a financial crisis that the debt defaults would have to bring the money supply back to 2008, 2009 levels, which would be catastrophic.
Yeah.
So theoretically, could they do it? Yeah. Will they do it? No.
And the thing is, some people might say, "Oh, what will happen to gold and silver?" Well, the thing is, there will be so many bankruptcies. We're already seeing it in the UK construction industry. I think there's a company called Midas. It's one of the biggest ones. They just filed for, bankruptcy. So that will not just be construction; it will be the whole economy and even governments. And in such a world, you want to have something without counterparty risk, I would say. And that's, outside the system, gold and silver. Let's see if we got more questions here, Rafi. Guys, feel free to ask questions. That's what we're here for, to answer the questions. Let's see. Echo says, I enjoyed the toothpaste analogy you tweeted. Oh yeah, I found I found that in a comment that I was reading an article in the FT. I think it was the inflation one, and someone tweeted out this quote by a former head of the Bundesbank, the German central bank. I think you like this, Rafi. He said, inflation is like toothpaste. Once it's out, you can hardly get it back in again.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah. So yeah. How many lifetimes do I have to wait until silver moon? Any views, Rafi?
Not anymore. This lifetime.
Yeah, and I think you got to look at it not in terms of silver mooning, but of the dollar and all the other fiat currencies crashing, because that's what's going to make silver and gold valuable. Silver and gold are not really, yeah, they will act as a act as a speculative asset, I would say, but yeah, only because they're money. And when money dies, gold and silver become very valuable. That's the way I see it. Dilwyn Roberts, Mario and Rafi, do you think the whole thing will collapse this year?
But yeah, I think it's very possible.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't and it takes another 2 or 3 months or whatever, then it's not going to kill me,
Yeah.
because I'm not leveraged, and
Yeah.
I understand where things have to go, and that's it. Like in this is what I said to Wall Street Silver, like 20, 30 years from now, when we're discussing the end game in the past, we're going to be saying, remember when we just kept, we didn't know what was going to happen, when we got really frustrated, and then, a crash happened, and, look at that tiny spot in the chart, and, yeah, well, how long did that last?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
silver
eventually
went from
it
30
ended.
to 20, and then you can't even see it on the chart. It's like when
Yeah.
you go back to 2008 on the gold chart, you can't even see the correction from 1,000 to 680 anymore. It's like just a little blip. Echo, Monaco 64, have you heard much about real estate issues in China recently? It all went quiet for now. Well, I haven't heard much. There hasn't been much out of, like it was late last year, with that, forgot the name of the company now, but I think we're seeing the Chinese economy slow down a lot. And I think that's a little bit of you know, uh, a result of that, because I think a lot of Chinese put their savings in real estate. Rafi, have you heard much about that?
There is one channel that I would recommend that you follow, and that is ADV China. There's these two American guys that they travel around on motorcycles in China looking at these, real estate situation. So they have a good video that comes out, I think, once a month or so. So follow them. They're the experts in this.
Yeah. And the
ADV China.
ADV China, okay. The other thing I would say about the collapse, I think we're already seeing, disruption to our lives. I don't know how it is in Israel, but here in the UK and Germany and even in the US, a lot of flights are being canceled. We have a lot of strikes here in the UK.
Oh yeah, here too.
Yeah, everything is being disrupted. So we're already seeing it. If you want things really, I don't want things to get like Mad Max like, and they might, but hopefully not. One thing I would say though, living in Brazil, I experienced a currency collapse there, but Brazilians and people in emerging market countries are used to that. The only problem is that we in the West think that these things never happen here. And that's the only fear I have. If things get really bad here, that people will get really angry, and we could see a lot of societal disruption. I think we're seeing in the US now. Maybe you can talk about this, Rafi, over this decision of the Supreme Court. We're already seeing riots concerning that. I think it's going to divide people even more, right?
Yeah. We're definitely seeing the disintegration of common decency in the United States, and there's just calls and resorts to violence and violent rhetoric, especially from the left, but from the right also, but especially from the left. It's just the fabric of society is unfortunately breaking down in the US, and that's why I left. Because when culture breaks down, America is it was a great experiment, but it's only 250 years old, and that's not much. And that's one of the reasons that I'm here in Israel, even though this is a pretty bad socialist country, and things are also breaking down here, and there's strikes, and there's also a lot of zombification. Like you go anywhere, and it's like people aren't really alive anymore, and they're not even like, don't see any light on their faces. It's like it's been sucked out of them. But at least, my logic for living here is, the Jewish people, it's more than just 1948. We've been around for like, more 3,000 years, and we have a little bit more of a culture to fall back on if things get really bad. So I'm hoping that we won't kill each other here, which is why I'm here and not there.
That's a good point there. It's all relative, I would say. Rhyme Time, thank you for your super chat. Rhyme Time UK, great stream, gents. Are we looking at a debt jubilee and new currencies due to the debt being unable to be repaid, or what does the end look like? Thank you. I think the Jubilee will basically be that it's going to be done through gold and silver, and the debt will still be there. They'll still pay it. Will be worth, you're gonna they're gonna pay your Social Security or national insurance here, your pension, but you won't be able to buy a coffee. Maybe that's how they'll pay off the debt. The debt will become worth so little that they'll be able to service it. Is that the way you see it as well, Rafi?
Yeah, and eventually the currency that is now denominated in will become so worthless that it's not even worth collecting anymore. That's what happened in Israel in 1983. There was hyperinflation here, and then people just stopped paying their mortgages, and the banks didn't care, because why should they try to get the payments on their mortgages if the monthly payment was like, a nickel?
Yeah, so it will be bad for people who, especially here in the UK, who have bought home. They've done the buy to let, or people also who are counting on their homes for it to be a retirement. Because when this happens, a hyperinflation, the mortgage will be written off, but you won't be able to sell your house or get anything for it. It will take years for the market to come back again, and that's something that for people in the UK will be very, very shocking, because the real estate market here has been always fairly, run pretty well despite some crashes and stuff. Chris Conman, thank you for your super chat. He says, if the BRICS nations roll out their new gold-backed currency this year, could it derail the IMF's SDR or the US digital dollar? Thanks. I'll let you answer that if you don't mind.
The BRICS countries are unveiling a gold currency. I don't see that happening.
Some people are speculating that they'll have not a. I personally don't think they're going to bring a single currency. I think they will maybe try to orchestrate a new monetary system, and gold will be an important part of it. And I think they could go to the IMF and say, yeah, we want to use the SDR, but we want to back it by gold. Or if they don't do that, it would be the SDR would be the SDR basically is a basket of fiat currencies. So I don't see, if they do have a new monetary architecture with gold, the SDR would become for the BRICS useless, I would say. And it would be, that would be even more negative for the dollar and the other Western currencies.
Yeah, I don't see, just generally, zooming out a little bit, I don't see gold and silver being saved or being reestablished by a central power, and that central power saying, okay, now our currency is gold or silver and everything's going to be fine now and everything's stabilized. That's not going to happen. Okay, governments are always led by the markets. Governments don't get out in front and do wise things, especially not nowadays. Maybe at some point when people were a little bit wiser, maybe they did. The fact that even the United States, declared independence from Britain and actually set something up that made some bit of sense was like the first time in history that ever happened. So I wouldn't count on it happening again. The markets are going to lead the governments, and when gold and silver do a moonshot, or conversely, when the dollar collapses, the market will move to gold and silver, and then the governments will have to follow, or they'll just start.
It's like the Fed; they have to really follow the bond markets. But maybe what he means here is that China and Russia have been buying a lot of gold, so they're a little different from the Western countries. But I don't think, I still think they want control of the money. So what do you think? Maybe Russia and China are different. They're a little more enlightened in terms of the gold situation.
I don't know how enlightened they are. It seems that China, I wouldn't trust anything coming out of them. It's even the statistics you can't show. I don't know what's going on in China. I don't think anybody does. Russia has a little bit more of a history with gold. So I would trust Putin a little bit more, but only a very little bit more. And I don't see either of these countries as wise or anything like that.
No. I think they're just trying to yeah, form an alternative to the dollar. I don't think when I talk about Russian gold and stuff, I don't think that they believe in gold and economic freedom like Howard Buffett wrote about. So yeah, but anyway, uh, someone's asking me how is my golf handicap. Well, it's actually come down a little bit. I've played well the last couple of times. I didn't play this weekend though, just rested a bit, and I did stuff with my wife, which is nice. How many times is it for the better good before people wake up? Yeah, that's always for the greater
The
good.
greater good, you mean?
Yeah, that's a collectivist philosophy, isn't it?
Yeah, greater good. That's a very dangerous saying.
That's what people like that guy in Germany used, his excuse. And during COVID as well, I remember when it started here in the UK, when they had lockdowns, you could only go to the supermarket, and it was like on the tannoy, like we're all in this together, And today I went shopping with my wife, and they're pushing this Pride Week as well, even in Marks and Spencers. And I got annoyed. They said over the tannoy as well, use your Marks and Spencers card and donate to the LGBTQ charity. And I was angry about that. They're really pushing this. Are they pushing that kind of stuff in Israel as well,
Oh,
Rafi?
yes. Yes.
I guess this June is Pride Month or something. I didn't even know.
Yeah. It's
I think that's
it's pretty
another symptom
infuriating.
of societal breakdown, don't you think?
Definitely, definitely. It's not
And
like
you
these things
and
haven't happened before. I mean,
yeah,
look at Greek society. It was
yeah,
institutionalized.
yeah. And even in the Weimar hyperinflation, the morals collapse. This is one of the symptoms of hyperinflation. That's why I believe we will get it, because it's all converging. We've got like useless leaders, like in the States and here and in Europe. I mean, it's all perfectly like happening.
I
Carlos
see that as a
Garcia.
good thing. I mean, thank God we
Yeah.
have useless leaders. Could you imagine how horrible it would be if we had a charisma, if Biden was this charismatic leader who was advocating all this stuff? It would be much worse.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Uh, Carlos Garcia says, Rafi Farber, what if countries add some gold to their currency miners will go bankrupt? They will nationalize their resources. Do you think? Well, I think he's asking whether you think there will be nationalization of miners.
No, I don't think so. I don't think they have the capability to do that. Nationalization is just an Orwellian term for theft.
Mm.
So if governments are stealing mining companies, that means they've already run out of money, which means they won't have the money to pay the thugs that they're hiring to nationalize the miners.
Yeah, and I think maybe if you are worried about nationalization, make sure you diversify geographically. That would be a good
It
thing.
could happen to a few isolated miners. I don't think it's going to be a
Yeah.
widespread thing. They're not going to have the time to organize and do it.
Yeah. Someone is saying Murray Rothbard, Uber alles. I think you like Murray Rothbard, don't you?
I do. Big fan.
Yeah, I like his books too. I like him. Echo, do you think the special military operation in Donbass might stop soon? I guess he means the Ukraine war. From what I watched, this guy, Scott Ritter, I think he was a UN weapons inspector in Iraq. And I think my wife was watching him, and he seems to think this war is going to last at least till the end of the year. Have you got an opinion on that, Rafi?
No, I'm not following I'm not a war guy. I have no idea what's going on. I don't even want to pretend that I know. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I saw this G7. It looks like Boris Johnson here, he wants to keep it going because he told Macron not to deal with Russia. So, yeah, I try not to follow it that much either.
Is Johnson still politically alive? What's going on with him? I thought.
Macron, yeah, I think, I think it's rare in France when you have the president and then his party doesn't have a majority in parliament, and that's what happens when the
I mean
French.
Johnson. I heard
Oh,
Boris
Johnson
Johnson
as
was under
well.
attack.
Yeah, yeah, he is. But the thing is, I think there's not much. The options in the Conservative Party are not very good. But I don't think he's got very long, even though he made a speech and he said he expects to be in power until the 2030s. I think he must have smoked something when he said that. But what happened is that they had two by-elections here, and one of them, the conservatives lost, and that was expected. But then they lost in I think it was in the southwest of England. They had a huge majority, and that was overturned. So that was very serious. But who knows?
The government here also fell recently. I think
Yeah.
that the Knesset's dissolving tomorrow.
Oh, okay. There you go. Is that guy Bennett? He's the prime minister, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a maneuver. He's a really bad guy. I
Yeah.
don't like him
The
at all.
thing is, like Rafi, he said he doesn't follow the war. I don't try to follow it much, but I don't follow politics that much as well because I know they're never going to do the right thing. So I just try to do the opposite and protect myself and, be on my own gold and silver standard, so to speak. Uh, Spiked head die crack. That's the name. Will SDR be the new bailout for too big to fail banks and companies? I don't think so. There won't be a bailout this time. I think there will be a bail-in, which means they're going to take a depositor's money to bail out the banks.
No, I think SDR is completely irrelevant.
Yeah,
SDR is like a snake eating its own tail. It's like all the same stuff.
SDR is just a basket of fiat trash. That's all it is.
Mhm.
Do you think they put Kissinger into a walk-in cooler at night to keep him preserved alive? He's almost 100 years old.
He's still
Well,
alive?
yeah, he is. He's 99, I think. I think, I don't know if they do that, but there are a lot of people who live over 100. And I have to admit, there's a lot of people like, the elite that do that. It makes you wonder, but I don't think there's anything unusual about someone. Well, it's not something that happens all the time, but people do live to 100. So there you go. I think I saw him speaking the other day. He could barely put sentences together, so he's not in great shape, it seems, but he is 99. We got a couple of minutes, Rafi. Let's just get a couple of more questions here. America needs to mind its own business. I think it's more not Americans, but the American government. It's like in every other country, so I wouldn't say Americans per se. How many? Let's see. There's no more questions. So, Rafi, any final thoughts to the viewers and what you think is the most important thing to do right now, financially, maybe also spiritually?
Spiritually, I'd say surround yourself with people who are on the same planet with you, because we seem to be walking around in a zombie apocalypse already, from what I can see, and most people are just not there, and they have no idea what's going on, and they have no idea what just happened these last 2 years. So surround yourself with like-minded people who are alive and there mentally, and get ready for a new world because it's coming, whether you're ready or not.
The other thing I would say on the spiritual side is try to be nice to the people who don't seem to be lost, I think, or like Rafi said, are zombies, because it's no point. I think if you're nice to them, they might want to find out more. So there you go. Thank you everyone for participating in the live stream. Thank you, Rafi, for coming on in short notice. And I think the viewers always appreciate your presence.
Well, I always enjoy being on with you, Mario. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Just to stop the recording, the live stream. Okay, there you go. Thanks, Rafi. How are you? Everything okay?
Yeah.